Excuse me. Hi, you guys. I have been gone for a while. There's been a lot going on in my life. Where to even begin? I have written nothing down. I will say first, I am sick. I've been sick for like 6 or 7 weeks now with a variety of things. I am looking at a most likelihood, very, very, very high likelihood diagnosis of cystic fibrosis. Pretty sure I previously shared that my daughter has cystic fibrosis, and I have my official test for that coming up very shortly, and but everything's pointing to that. The germs, so it keeps getting shared back and forth between me and my 6-month-old, and she is currently at my friend's house for the weekend so that I could recover a little bit. So anyhow, that's why I sound like I do. I'm just been sick for quite a while now. So anyhow, just kind of gonna tell my story for a little bit here, story time. So if just backtrack the last 6 months, I guess. So when she was born, I was induced early because she had distended bowels. Her bowels internally were really full. They could see that from the ultrasounds and whatnot, and they thought she might have had a hole in her bowel, even possibly perforated. So when they did the scan, they decided to induce me at 37 weeks and 3 days. So I was admitted, and I was given the pill, don't remember what it is now, to help soften my cervix, I think it was. I didn't end up needing anything else. I ended up started contractions pretty much right away. My friend Natalie was there with me. She stayed with me at the hospital. And so middle of the night, contractions picked up, and they crazy picked up for me. I also have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so with labor and delivery, some of the things that can happen is things progress like that. So my contractions went from, oh, my contractions are starting, to, oh, my contractions seem like they're like every 30 seconds and extremely intense really quickly. So I was just moaning and moaning and moaning, and Natalie had started to nod out, and then she heard me moaning and moaning and moaning, and she's like, oh wow, oh wow. And so they had they came in, and they could see that it was really intense, and they said that they were going to go ahead and do the epidural. And so they came back in and they did the epidural, and yeah, things were progressing. And so anyhow, so I get to where I get dilated enough, and they come check the position and everything like that. And the doctor comes in to try and check her position, and he feels in there, and he said that he actually thinks that she is breech. My brain's not working right now. He thinks that he's feeling her bottom when he's reaching in there, and he has the other doctor feel, and then they kind of do like a scan, and then he realizes, no, he said he feels in there, he says, no, I'm putting my finger in her mouth. And then he said, she's actually presenting face first, and we might have to do a C-section. Face first meaning she's coming out like this. So like lips first, and then nose, like coming out like this. So that's not a good way to come out either. You know, of course there's different presentations that are bad, but that's bad too. So, but we decided just to keep going with it. Now I also have Tourette's. The part of Tourette's that made this difficult was my muscle weakness. So, and the fact that she was coming out that way, her head is wider that way. So, but I never screamed. My sister said that I was a trooper with delivery and everything because I never screamed. I kind of hummed my way through. I had my my fidget thing there, and I was holding it, and I kind of just hummed my way through it. And so trying to silence this. I don't know why it's still. I did silence it. It's still making noise. So as I'm, you know, legs up, holding my legs, and they're holding my legs, I'm trying to push her out. I'm like between contractions, losing strength. They're saying I'm doing so. I never talked the whole time. I never screamed. And between contractions, I'm like, ugh, and they had to give me oxygen. And they pull up these handles on the side. I didn't know that they had these little grip handles on the side. So I'm like losing strength. So then I'm holding on to these handles. I finally pushed her all the way out. Had over 30 stitches. It was pretty bad. When she came out though, she's breathing on her own. Her vitals were good and everything like that. You know, when they had broken my water, there's meconium in there and stuff. So, and because of her bowels and stuff, she did go over to the NICU. Day by day, the NICU was pretty intense because every day I didn't know what was going to happen. It was extremely stressful. I was in severe pain. You know, I tore really bad. I could barely sit up in bed. You know, I was still admitted for a while. So, you know, but, you know, from the time I had her and she was in the NICU, you know, I was still numb from the epidural. They said I couldn't go over to the NICU until the epidural wore off and I could walk. So I called myself doing my physical therapy, and they thought it was funny that I called it that, but it was my left leg that kind of stayed numb longer. So I was smacking my left leg, and I was like pulling my leg up, pushing it down, pulling up, pushing it down. I was doing everything in my power to get my feeling back in both my legs to be able to walk. And so I was doing it as often as I could so I could walk, so I could get over there to see my baby. From the time I had her to the time I saw her, I think it was like 6 hours, and it felt like an eternity since I saw my baby. So, but when she came out, her lips were, you know, I think I have probably previously posted videos or pictures. Her lips were very swollen. Her face was very bruised and stuff like that. So anyhow, when she came out, they did initial x-rays and ultrasounds and whatnot, and her bowels were very distended, very full of the meconium and the amniotic fluid that she had ingested when she was inside of me, and she did have a blockage. So I have been speaking to doctors and nurses every day. They did enema with contrast the first day, and it would only go up very small portion of her bowel, and so she couldn't eat. They put an IV in with you know, nutrition and glucose and stuff. You know, it's been 6 months now, and I'm telling this, that I probably told part of this earlier and was more exact with details, but so after so many days, they did put a PICC line in, which is, so they put it in her arm like an IV, but up through, closer up through to where her heart was, to give her more nutrition, because she couldn't eat until she was there 6 days. Because so they gave her 3 enemas with contrast, and it wasn't until the third, so the second one was more promising. It went all the way through down to where like her small, I think it was her small bowel was, where they figured the blockage was. And when that third one went through, I happened to be over there visiting when they changed that diaper. And I never thought I'd be so happy to see a poopy diaper, but I was so overjoyed, crying tears of joy seeing that diaper, because all of it had come out, the calcifications and everything, and they said that they do happy dances for poopy diapers over there because she cleared it. She cleared it all. And then she was able to clear things now. And it was because she had cystic fibrosis, her pancreatic insufficiency. Her pancreas, because what CF does is it causes these thick secretions throughout her body and causes a lot of different things to have thick secretions and things to build up. One of those things is in her pancreas. There's these little fibers, these little hairs that are flattened now because of the thick secretions. So pancreas doesn't work. So she has to be on this medicine called Creon, which is a pancreatic enzyme, these little beads in this little capsule that I have to open up and pour into her mouth with every feed. So it does what her pancreas is supposed to do in breaking down her food. So on her 6th day there, she had her Creon, and she had 5 milliliters of breast milk. And her milk drunk face after that bottle was amazing. Anyhow, when she was there for 11 days was when I met with the cystic fibrosis team, and she had her official cystic fibrosis diagnosis. And I was told all about it. I was given this decent sized book all about cystic fibrosis, and that was an extremely emotional day for me because it is a serious diagnosis. It's a serious condition, shortened life expectancy, and you know, I am autistic, so at first I have to think about, for me mentally, I have to first think about, it's not like I have to first think about all the negatives, but I have to first think about the realistic part of it, the realism part of it, you know, not negative or pessimism, but just think about the realistic part of it. Me mentally prepare for, you know, what the future holds. Then I can process that and say, okay, now how am I going to work with this? How am I going to make her life happy around all of this? How are we going to make her life fulfilled around all of this? So that first meeting was very emotional. So throughout this whole stay, it was very difficult for me. Yes, I do have autism, and, you know, I was there alone. COVID, nobody's allowed to visit or anything. I was there by myself every day, not knowing what was going to happen. I was told she might or might not need surgery. She may or may not have a hole in her bowel. I didn't even know if she was going to make it. They didn't even give me assurance that she was going to make it. You know, they didn't say, yeah, she's going to be all right. Every day talking to surgeons, doctors, nurses, cystic fibrosis team, I struggled. I had some mini meltdowns while I was there, you know, and the nurses heard me, you know, they see me struggling. So they wrote things down in their little notes and stuff like that. And they called the social worker to talk to me and stuff. And, you know, and I talked to the mental health team and stuff like that. So all this got cataloged and everything like that. So I talked to the DHS person came to the hospital while I was there, and she wanted to know what my plan was for having my daughter and for what I was going to do when I go home. And before I even went to the hospital, I had a plan, you know, in place. I had people that I had talked to about who were going to be able to support me, phone numbers, and I had professional supports and stuff like that. And so I told this lady that, and I didn't have phone numbers written down at the time because I didn't really talk to people on the phone. It was more messenger or in person because people were down my hall and stuff like that. So anyhow, when I talked to this DHS lady, with the nursing notes that she got, and with the fact that I didn't have phone numbers, and with her general impression of me, I guess, she felt like I was not prepared or that I could not handle it. So the following day, I found out in a conference call with her that she submitted all this to the judge, and they took custody of my daughter on the 12th day that I was there with her at the hospital. And at that point, they were requiring me to leave the hospital. Yeah, the hospital that was over 2 hours away from me. They wanted me to leave my daughter, who was still in the NICU, in the hospital, and making me leave her there. And that was the hardest day of my life. I literally thought I was going to die from heartbreak. You know how you hear of older couples who, one of them passes away and the other one passes away from heartbreak. That day when I left the hospital, I thought that was going to happen. I thought that I left my heart there. I was the most overjoyed person in the world to find out that I was pregnant, because I was pretty much told numerous times that I was infertile, that I couldn't have a baby, and I had tried previously many times and couldn't. And I actually had a miscarriage right before her. So anyhow, so I left her there, and I got my lawyer, and very quickly, and I had my day in court, and at which point worked very hard with my lawyer, and I told her everything, and I'm like, it's ridiculous that this ever happened. I only went through what I went through in the hospital because of the circumstances, My daughter was in no danger at all. She would have never been neglected. She would have never. They had no basis for anything, It was ridiculous. It was judgment, and it was judgment based on my autism and my struggle in the hospital, based on what I was going through alone. And sorry, I really didn't want to get too emotional during this, but here we go. So anyhow, so we worked very hard on my case, and we had that first court hearing, and she warned me that at this initial hearing, it's not a very long hearing. She called it a short and dirty hearing, and that a lot of times that the judge at this initial hearing will sign with DHS on the side of caution, because, they've sent kids home with parents in these types of cases, and they have had serious things happen. And so on these initial hearings, they'll send them home, and then they'll have the next hearing, and something else could happen from there, that they could go home from there, but that they might side with DHS on this first hearing. And so we worked hard, and I was kind of hoping that wouldn't happen, but in the initial hearing, they sided with DHS, and she stayed in foster care, but he was very much on the fence. It was like he wanted to not do that, but he was very much on the fence. But he did something he never did before. He ordered daily visits, like every single day. Like I was to see her every single day. The foster family lived, I don't know exactly distance, but it was a decent distance to travel. But I don't want to say that the daily visits made it any easier. This is something I'm currently struggling with, is looking back on all those pictures and videos, because yeah, I did get to see her every day, but for 2 hours every day. So I would see her every day. This was what I would do. I would see her. I would do her chest physical therapy, which is the little thumping device that I would use on her. I'd breastfeed her. I'd play with her, change her, and give her back every day. I'd go to her appointments. She was also born with club foot, so after a short period of time, she started going weekly to get her foot casted and straightened eventually. And then she had a tenotomy where they cut the tendon in the back of her foot, and she was in a fiberglass cast for 3 weeks. So 13 weeks in cast. She is currently in Poncetti boots and bar. She has to wear 23 hours a day. Anyhow, where were we? So we, so the visits went on and on. Eventually, I had visits that transitioned to longer visits. Those visits eventually started coming to my house and Natalie's house and were longer. Then they transitioned to mostly at my house. Then they transitioned to the Natalie just supervising visits. Then they were only at my house visits. And then there were overnights. And then eventually they were pretty much all at my house and almost all overnights. And then they finally, in November, I got custody signed over to me with conditions, which were silly conditions. It was just, the conditions were just make sure I go to my appointments, make sure she goes to her appointments, and make sure I keep up with what I'm supposed to do. Basically just make sure I live life how I'm supposed to. That's the conditions. And then a couple weeks ago, well, maybe a couple weeks ago, I finally just had my final court hearing where the case was 100% fully dismissed. It's completely closed, done for. They're completely out of my life. Now, so that's done for. They're out of my life. My daughter's completely mine. They have no say in it anymore. But, you know, the whole ordeal did cause me PTSD about all of that, a lot of things. Rayleigh is currently at my friend Natalie's house because I am sick. I've been sick for like 6 weeks. I most likely have cystic fibrosis myself. I've had severe asthma for quite a while. The thing with CF is I'm also part of a parent support page on Facebook, and a lot of them talk about if you have a CF child and you're considering having another, when you have CF siblings, you have to be careful, don't let them share food and drinks, yada yada. If you're a parent that has CF and you have a child with CF, it's complicated. You know, I'm not gonna not snuggle my baby, kiss my baby, hug my baby. And the thing is that actually her immune system is probably a little better than mine right now. So, like last weekend is the first time she got sick. She had like a sinus infection or sinusitis, something like that, which she got better from, but she gave it to me. I've been sick for like 6 or 7 weeks. I've been on 3 different antibiotics, 2 rounds of steroids, and we don't really go much of anywhere but appointments, but she does have her orthopedist, her pediatrician, and her cystic fibrosis appointments, and her appointment to go get fitted for new boots, and if we have to go shopping. And any germs that she brings home, she seems to not hold on to, but she gives them to me, and I can't get better, and I've never been sick this bad for this long. So anyhow, so the hardest part of all that is, so I'm having my sweat test because that's how they fully diagnose you with cystic fibrosis. I was already identified as a carrier. That's obviously how she has cystic fibrosis, but I have not had the full diagnosis test yet. That's on February 2nd, so I will let you guys know about that. I know I look a hot mess right now. The worst part that is really bothering me, I'm not going to show it to you because I'm too ashamed to show it, but is my hair. One of the other things that she struggles with is at night, especially since the winter with the dry heat in my apartment. She has a hard time breathing. So I have to use saline and an aspirator, sometimes several times a night, to suction her out to help her breathe. And so I don't sleep much, so I do this all night long. And so I haven't been sleeping, and rubbing my head back and forth so much a few weeks ago. It got really tangled, and I've been so busy with taking care of her, and there's a lot of things I have to do for her in a day. A lot. My hair's matted in the back, and I have tried so many times to fix it. I've washed it. I've put vegetable oil. I used to love my hair. I used to love doing all kinds of things with my hair. I'm in a mess. I'm a mess, you guys. But I'm trying to get through it. I'm going to get through it. Because she's my world. I love her so much. She is just so amazing. After this video, I'm going to upload, like, there's so many new things you need to see about her. So, this is the story video, and then you'll see a million little clips of her. Feel free to watch them. I'm not going to put them all into one, so you can watch all the little clips. Anyhow, the thing is, if I do have the CF and I get diagnosed, is I'm already 35 years old, and CF has a shortened life expectancy, and I'm not going to put numbers on it because I've already done that today, but I won't really live to see her be very old, unless there's some really huge advancements, because, you know, even the new advancements there have been, people still aren't living for that much longer than I am right now. But she is the most amazing little girl. She's got such a great personality. She's so silly. And she's extremely smart. She knows some sign language, some baby sign language already. She knows all done. And she knows the sign for more and eat. And she waves hi. She's already said her first word, which is hi. She says it sometimes. She said it to herself in the mirror. She has this stand-up thing, and she stands now too, in her boots and without her boots. And she can identify on her little standing thing the triangle, the circle, the square, the red, the blue, the cow, the phone, the sun, the peekaboo door, sometimes the orange. Yeah, she can. And the only thing we're struggling with right now is her weight gain. Recently I've had to add in more bottles, and again I have to wake her up in the middle of the night again to feed her because her weight gain has slowed down. She's 13.5 pounds in 6 months. And we want to avoid having to do a G-tube, so we're trying to get her to gain weight again. She's been eating oatmeal for a while now, baby cereal oatmeal. And next week we're going to be adding in veggies, so we'll see how that goes. Anyhow, this is a really long video, and if you've stayed till now, then I know you really wanted to hear all about it. I didn't want to make it really long, but I wanted to try and tell as much of the whole story as I could. And I'm sorry I haven't been on here for so long, but I knew I was going to be a mess telling the whole story. And be looking for some of the updates soon. I'll see you guys as soon as I can.